Hey, so the subject I'm going to talk about is one that is very emotive and provokes very strong opinions on both sides. But unusually for me, it's one I'm not really opinionated on. In the sense that I genuinely understand both sides of the argument. The issue is abortion. Um, Broadly speaking, I'm pro-choice, by which I believe that abortion should be permitted in cases of rape, in cases of incest, in cases of the woman's health. And I'm generally for women having that right to choose. And I believe that life begins at birth. I don't think an early stage fetus is a life in the same way that uh, a baby is. However, I am very uncomfortable with late stage abortion when the organs have been largely formed. Well, I'm against late stage abortion unless it's an absolute emergency. But otherwise, I'm against it. Anyway, I'm going to read out a little bit of this article. It's a biased source, I'm not going to lie. It is from a right wing source called cnsnews.com. But, assuming the report is accurate, then this speaks for itself. As part of International Women's Day, March the 8th, feminist protesters simulated a bloody abortion on a woman dressed as the Virgin Mary, the Mother of Jesus Christ, outside the cathedral in Tucumán, Argentina. I think I'm pronouncing that city correctly. Tucumán. I'm not entirely sure how that's pronounced in Spanish. But anyway, the protesters, according to LiveSite News, which reported the incident in the English language press, cheered the fake abortion as symbolically killing patriarchy and forced heterosexuality. Reverend Frank Pavone, who heads Priest for Life, told LifeSite News, "This act also shows what is at the foundation of the hardcore pro abortion people. They hate the church and they literally want to abort Jesus off the face of the earth in every manifestation of his presence today." In the mock abortion in front of the cathedral, a young woman is wearing a white dress, a blue veil, and a crown of flowers. She is also wearing what appears to be a rosary around her neck. She's sitting on a chair with her legs spread, and several abortionists wearing a pink pussy hats, that's from the Russian activist group, are removing and dismembering a bloody fake baby from her vagina. Fake blood and body parts cover the street. In a photo from the event, one protester is shown videoing the abortion of the baby Jesus. The Catholic Archbishop of Tucumán condemned the mock abortion in a public letter. And there's a picture there. It's very realistic looking blood. I'm not sure what material they're using for that, but the woman in the so-called Virgin Mary is got a big grin on her face and she's got her arm in the air. Um, Here's the thing. Well, I think this is just a pathetic and crude publicity stunt. I have no respect for it. And what's interesting, where I found this, someone had made a link to this on a discussion group in which all sorts of things come up. Now, what was interesting was there was a lot of women there who are pro-choice, who call themselves feminists, and even they conceded that this sort of attention-seeking nonsense is counterproductive. I mean, to do it outside a cathedral is blatantly provocative. But even if you hate religion and you say, oh, well, it's fine to insult religion, which I don't agree with, but even if that's your position, how about women who may have been through an abortion? How about women who may be going past this? It's in a public street. Um, they see that. Surely that could potentially provoke, I don't know if PTSD is the right word, but, I'd imagine it would be very upsetting because female friends I know who've been through that experience say that it's one of the hardest things a woman could go through. So for them to mock it, basically, I think is frankly disgusting. There will be those who say, oh, but religion does far worse, and religion is this, that, and the other. Well, look, I totally support the right to criticize religion. And in some parts of the world, women who've literally been raped aren't allowed to abort, or it's very difficult to abort. And people will cite those who harass women outside abortion clinics. The point I would make is those who harass women outside abortion clinics are a very small minority of the pro life side. I also have friends who are against abortion. They're not woman haters, and they certainly don't go to abortion clinics and yell things at women. Um, what does irritate me somewhat about this debate, I mentioned I'm not opinionated in the sense I see both sides. But one thing I admit does irritate me a bit is both sides get demonized, right? So hardcore anti-abortionists say it's baby killing. I don't agree with that. However, the other side also labels their opponents. They call them woman haters. Well, what about women who are against abortion? Are they all self-hating? Pro-life advocates would say half of all fetuses are female. So I think that's a flawed argument. I certainly think that the facilities should be provided for women who are in that position, but it should be something that there is careful consideration with the doctor, with the woman, and those who are pro-life would argue that the man also should have a say. After all, he would be the father. Those who are pro-life would say the issue of body sovereignty becomes a problem when you argue actually there's another life in there. So saying, oh well, it's her body, her choice, but what about the rights of the unborn? That's I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. That's what they would say. Indeed, I wouldn't even say the devil's advocate because I don't want to demonize them. I understand their argument. Um, I don't agree with it because I just can't see life as I understand it as beginning when, an early stage fetus. I see life as beginning at birth. That's why we have birthdays. That's why we say you're so and so many years old. We don't say, I don't say I'm 33 plus 9 months, or 33 plus the time I was a fetus. I'm 33. That's when I was born. I was born on the 1st of September 1985. I wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't my life when I was a fetus. So this is a very emotive issue, and these sort of stunts, all they will do is harden the resolve of people who, excuse me, anti-abortion and pro-life, and they will just say, "Oh, look at how callous these people are. Look at how classless they are." So it's stupid. It's counterproductive, and I can't see many people backing it except maybe hardcore feminists. As for demonstrating against forced heterosexuality, what does that even mean? This is where um, the Women's Day activism gets into silly season. It just backfires because it makes it makes the women's rights movement look nonsensical, and yet there are many real issues regarding human rights and how women are treated around the world. But this is not the way to go about it. It's just stupid. By the way, someone pointed out if it had been in a theatre in that context, in which people knew what they were going to watch, that would be different, and I'd agree with that. But this is in a public street where people have no choice about whether they see it or not, so they're imposing it on the watching public. I think their behavior is selfish, I think it's crude, and yeah, it just doesn't achieve anything. It's pathetic, actually.